It started with an invitation I almost didn't open. Cream paper, gold edges, expensive, cold, and impersonal. My daughter's handwriting on the envelope was perfect, like she'd practiced it for people wealthier than us. "Dad," it said. No warmth. No love, Lily. Just Dad. I stood at the kitchen counter, bourbon glass sweating in my hand, and read her name again. Lily Thompson. The new name. She hadn't even waited for the vows before taking his. I could almost hear her saying, "It looks better on the invitations." The house creaked in the evening heat. The old clock above the fridge ticked like it was keeping count of everything I'd lost: my wife, my company, my daughter. Margaret had been gone 5 years now. Cancer took her fast, and it took Lily's heart even faster. We hadn't spoken much since the funeral. She said I was angry at the world. I told her she was running from it. The bourbon burned, but it steadied me. "We would love for you to attend, if it's not too much trouble." Those words at the bottom of the invitation cut deeper than anything she'd said to my face. If it's not too much trouble. That little girl used to follow me around job sites, wearing a pink hard hat I bought her from a toy store. "For my hero," she'd say when she handed me coffee after long shifts. I'd tuck her into bed at night and tell her that honest work built the world. She believed me then. Now she was marrying into people who bought the world instead of building it. Still, a father doesn't skip his daughter's wedding, even when he's not sure he's still invited. The day came hot and dry, Texas heat heavy enough to melt asphalt. The venue looked like a dream someone else paid for: white marble steps, imported orchids, glass chapel overlooking a lake. The Beaumont family's kind of money. Old oil money. I parked my dusty pickup beside a line of black sedans. Some valet kid hesitated before taking my keys, like the truck might stain his uniform. I handed them over anyway. Inside, everything gleamed. The guests looked like mannequins: diamonds, suits, practiced smiles. My boots echoed on the polished floor. I caught a few stares, the kind people give when they're trying to figure out if you belong or wandered in by mistake. Then I saw her. Lily. My girl. For a heartbeat, all the anger vanished. She looked radiant, soft curls, pearl dress, eyes like Margaret's. When she turned and saw me, her smile flickered. Barely noticeable, but I felt it like a crack underfoot. Then she looked away. A woman with a clipboard approached. "Excuse me, sir, are you with the staff?" I almost laughed. "No. I'm the bride's father." She blinked, color draining from her face. "Oh, of course. I'll show you to your seat." She didn't need to. I found it myself. Back row, left side. No father of the bride sign, no mention in the program. Just a folded card that said guest. The ceremony was perfect. Too perfect. Like one of those magazine spreads where no one ever sweats or argues. I kept waiting for a moment, any moment, that felt real. After the vows, the dinner began. Champagne flowed, laughter filled the hall. I stayed quiet, watching her laugh with strangers who called her Lils like they'd known her all their lives. When our eyes met across the table, she gave me a polite nod, the kind you give an old neighbor, not your father. That's when the groom's father leaned toward me. Silver hair, calm eyes, a presence that carried quiet authority. "You must be Richard," he said. "I am." He offered his hand. "David Beaumont. Good to finally meet you." His grip was firm, respectful. "I've heard a lot about you," he added. "Hope some of it was true," I said. He smiled faintly. "Maybe more than she'd like me to know." I wasn't sure what he meant, but something in his tone felt deliberate, like he was studying me. Before I could ask, the coordinator clinked a glass and called for speeches. The groom went first, smooth, practiced, grateful. Then Lily stood. She looked every bit the queen she wanted to be, flawless and unreachable. "I want to thank everyone for being here," she began, voice sweet enough to rot teeth. "Especially those who've supported me in becoming who I am today." Her eyes found mine. And to my father, she said, pausing for effect. Thank you, for teaching me what not to become. A ripple of laughter, unsure, nervous. My chest tightened. She continued, smiling like she hadn't just carved me open. I learned that success isn't about shouting the loudest or holding on to the past, she said. It's about rising above bitterness and small minds. Silence. Forks froze midair. Even the band stopped tuning. David Beaumont looked from her to me, confusion darkening his face. He mouthed something like, "What the hell?" But I was already on my feet. I didn't yell. Didn't throw my drink. I just left. Each step toward the exit echoed louder than applause. Outside, the wind carried the smell of rain and roses. My reflection glared back at me from the glass doors, a tired man in a wrinkled suit who'd just lost the last thing he cared about. But the strangest thing happened as I lit a cigarette. The shaking stopped. My mind went clear, sharp, cold. She'd made her choice. Now it was my turn. The night air outside felt heavier than it should have. The music from inside bled through the walls, muffled laughter, clinking glasses, her voice drifting over the microphone again. I should have kept walking, straight to my truck, straight home. But I stood there under the awning like some stray dog waiting for a door that would never open. Then I heard footsteps. "Richard," a voice called. "Hold up." It was David Beaumont, the groom's father. He wasn't smiling now. His face had that look men get when they've just seen something that doesn't sit right. "Don't leave just yet," he said. "Please. I've had enough entertainment for one evening," I said, lighting another cigarette. He hesitated, then stepped closer. "That speech, that wasn't right. Your son married her. It's his circus now." "Maybe so," he said quietly, "but I don't like circuses built on lies." I looked at him, really looked. His tie was loosened, his jaw tight, not the relaxed billionaire host from earlier. This was a man fighting something inside. "What are you saying?" I asked. He sighed. "Not here. There's a small terrace behind the chapel. Quieter there." We walked in silence. The gravel crunched under our shoes. Beyond the lake, lightning flashed, distant, silent. When we stopped, he leaned against the railing. "I owe you some truth, Richard. And I think you deserve to hear it before this night gets uglier." I folded my arms. "Go on." He took a deep breath. "Lily came to us a few months ago, before the engagement was official. Said you were unstable, angry, even violent. Claimed you'd threatened her after her mother's death, that you blamed her for it." My stomach turned cold. "What?" "She said you threw her out, cut her off financially, tried to control her life. She painted a picture of a man I didn't want near my family." He looked at me then, regret heavy in his eyes. I believed her. My wife did too. We insisted the wedding planning stay private. "That's why you weren't included." I stared out at the lake. My hand tightened around the railing. "And you didn't think to ask me?" She showed us messages, screenshots. Bank transfers, angry texts. They looked real. I laughed, short, bitter. Of course they did. She's always been good with stories. David rubbed his forehead. I started doubting it 2 weeks ago. Something didn't add up. She wanted me to transfer her part of the trust, $500,000, before the ceremony. Said it was a surprise for her husband. But when I asked Thomas, he knew nothing about it. "So she lied to both of us," I said quietly. He nodded. "Seems she's been lying to everyone." For a long moment neither of us spoke. The air smelled of wet stone and lilies from the pond. Somewhere behind us, the crowd cheered, probably the start of the first dance. "She wanted to erase you," David said. "Your name, your story, everything. To her, you're a liability, someone who remembers the truth." "What truth?" I asked. He looked at me. "That she didn't come from money. That she was raised by a man who built his own company with his hands. That her mother worked double shifts at a clinic to pay for her dance lessons. She's ashamed of that." I felt something break, not loud, but final. All I ever wanted, I whispered, was for her to have a better life. I worked myself half to death for that girl. I know, David said softly, and I'm sorry for believing her lies. You deserve better. I finished my cigarette and crushed it under my heel. Apology accepted, I said, but the damage is done. He shook his head. Maybe not. I've seen men ruin others for less than what she did tonight. I'm not interested in ruin. Then what? Truth, I said. And timing. We stood there for a while, two fathers on opposite sides of a mess either had made. Then, out of nowhere, Lily appeared in the doorway. Her makeup was perfect again, her expression calm. Dad, she said, like the word was a test she had to pass. Why are you talking to him? David straightened. Because your father deserved to hear the truth. Her smile flickered, then hardened. What truth? She asked, voice low. The one you've been hiding, he said. The trust fund lie. The fake messages. The way you turned this wedding into a performance. Her eyes darted to me, then back to him. You have no idea what you're talking about. I have every idea, he said sharply. I've seen your emails, Lily. You sent them from the account registered under my company's name. You tried to have the money wired to a shell account. The silence that followed was the kind that cuts through bone. Lily's face drained of color. You're mistaken, she whispered. No, he said. I'm disappointed. Her mask cracked. You think I needed your money? She hissed. I was protecting Thomas from him. She pointed at me. I met her gaze, steady, calm. Protecting him from what, Lily? The truth? You wouldn't understand, she said, voice trembling now. You never cared about image or respectability. I cared about you. I interrupted. When you were 10 and cried because the other girls had fancier shoes, I worked weekends to buy them. When you wanted to study art, I sold my truck so you could move to Austin. Don't talk to me about respectability. For a second I saw it, guilt, maybe even regret. Then she blinked, and it was gone. You're just jealous, she said. That someone like me could rise above your small life. David stepped forward. Enough. You humiliated your father tonight for the sake of appearances. You lied to me for money. You're lucky I don't tell Thomas right now. Her voice sharpened. If you do, I'll tell everyone your precious company isn't as clean as it looks. Careful, he said coldly. You don't know who you're threatening. That was the moment the balance shifted. I could feel it. Her arrogance finally met something harder than pride, truth backed by power. David turned to me. Let me handle this. No, I said quietly. This is my storm. She turned to leave, but I caught her arm, not roughly, just enough to make her look at me. You wanted to make me small, Lily, I said. You succeeded tonight. But you also showed the whole world exactly who you are. I won't raise my voice. I won't make a scene. I'll let you have your night. Her lip trembled. Good, she said. That's the least you can do. I nodded. And tomorrow I'll have mine. She blinked, uncertain. Then I walked past her, through the glowing doors, and down the steps. The sky split open with thunder. Rain began to fall, heavy and sudden, washing the dust off the cars and the lies off my skin. I didn't look back. Not once. But I knew this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The rain followed me home that night. Sheets of it, slamming against the windshield like it wanted me to stop. I didn't. I just kept driving, past the dark fields, the gas stations, the sleeping towns. My hands were steady on the wheel. My chest wasn't. By the time I pulled into my driveway, thunder had moved east, leaving the air thick and metallic. The porch light flickered, a bulb I'd been meaning to fix for weeks. Fitting, I thought. Everything left half-finished. I hung my soaked jacket on the hook and stood in the kitchen, listening to the house breathe. The smell of damp wood and bourbon. The clock ticking again. Always that damn clock. Her words replayed in my head, one by one. Thank you for teaching me what not to become. That line cut deeper than any knife. She'd rehearsed it. Looked in the mirror, practiced the pauses, the fake smile. My daughter had weaponized me for applause. I poured a drink, set it on the table, didn't touch it. Just stared at it while the storm quieted. People think revenge starts with anger. It doesn't. It starts with silence. When you've lost everything, pride, trust, name, the noise dies down. What's left is clarity. That's where I was. At dawn, I found myself in the garage, sitting on a stool, staring at the old photo tacked to the wall. Me, Margaret, and Lily. 4th of July, 15 years ago. She's sitting on my shoulders, her hands covered in melted ice cream, laughing like she owned the world. I took it down. Wiped the dust off. Then turned it face down on the workbench. That man's dead, I whispered. I picked up my phone and scrolled to a number I hadn't called in years. James Porter. My old lawyer. The kind of man who never deleted a file. He answered on the second ring. Rich? Damn, it's been a while. I need a favor, I said. Quiet one. Those are my favorite kind. What's going on? You still keep copies of old contracts? He chuckled. Always. What are we talking about? Thompson Construction. The Beaumont deal. 2015. He paused. That was a big one. Why dig that up? Because something's buried in it. And I think it's time we unearthed it. He didn't ask questions, he never did. I'll have the files by noon, he said. Send them to my personal email. Not the old work one. Understood. You sound different, Rich. I am, I said. Finally. By midday, the rain had stopped. The world looked cleaner, like it didn't know what had happened the night before. I drove into town, to a small diner where the coffee tasted like burnt honesty. David Beaumont was already there, corner booth, phone in hand, same calm presence. Didn't think you'd call, he said. I'm not the type to leave a story unfinished. He nodded slowly. I respect that. He slid a manila folder across the table. These are copies of the emails Lily sent me. Proof she tried to move the trust fund early. You'll want to keep them. I opened it. Clean evidence. Dates, wire requests, fake signatures, all there. She really thought no one would notice? She was confident. People who lie for a living usually are. I closed the folder. I'm not after her money. I didn't think you were. I'm after something that lasts longer. David studied me. Justice? Something like it. He leaned back. Then maybe I can help. I still have influence in the press. Quiet influence. If you want her image to fall apart. I shook my head. No. She'd just play the victim. Cry on camera. Get sympathy. So what's your plan? I smiled faintly. To let her reveal herself. That evening, I sat at my desk, the light low and warm. James emailed the documents, scanned contracts, invoices, payment receipts. I went through them one by one until I found it, a clause in the old Beaumont-Thompson deal. Public integrity clause, a fancy term for reputation protection. If either party engaged in fraudulent behavior that risked the Beaumont name, the deal voided itself. And guess whose signature sat right under mine? Lily's. Back then, she'd been just a witness. Barely 20. But legally, her name was there, and that meant something. I leaned back, thinking. If David's lawyers saw that, and if her lies came to light, every cent she'd hoped to gain from that trust would vanish. She'd not only lose money, she'd lose status, protection, everything she'd built her new life around. I didn't have to destroy her. I just had to let her destroy herself. That night I made a list. Simple. Clean. 1. Contact James. Prepare notarized copies of 2015 deal. 2. Contact David. Arrange meeting with his son, but not yet. 3. Verify Lily's account activity. Find where she's hiding the shell company. 4. Stay silent. Let them believe I'm done. I wrote at the bottom. They wanted my weakness. I'll give them my silence instead. Then I turned off the light. Sleep didn't come easy, but when it did, it was deep. The kind that rebuilds something in you. When I woke, the sun cut through the blinds in gold stripes across the floor. I made coffee, black, no sugar, just how Margaret used to. Her old photo still lay face down on the table. I turned it over. Not to forget, just to remind myself who I was fighting for. Not revenge for pain. Justice for dignity. Outside, the world looked calm. But underneath, the storm was just beginning. The week after the wedding felt like standing in the eye of a storm. Everything looked calm, but you could sense the rotation, invisible winds, waiting to tear through again. Lily didn't call. Didn't text. But I knew her. Silence wasn't peace. Silence meant she was cleaning up, reshaping the story before the world heard another version. I didn't rush. You can't chase truth. You lure it. Monday morning, I went back to my old office, the one I'd locked 2 years ago after selling what was left of Thompson Construction. Dust covered everything except the safe in the corner. I spun the dial, pulled the handle, and opened the door on 10 years of history. Inside were the contracts James had emailed, old ledgers, a few memory sticks, and something else, Margaret's silver locket. I hadn't touched it since the funeral. Inside was a photo of Lily at 17, gap-toothed smile, graduation dress half-zipped, laughing because I couldn't tie her ribbon right. I held it for a moment, then slipped it into my pocket. You'll see this again, I muttered. By noon, I'd made 3 calls. The first was to James Porter, to have the integrity clause and notarized copies ready. The second, to a friend still working at the Austin Ledger, local paper, decent circulation, discreet favors. And the third, to David Beaumont. He picked up immediately. I figured I'd hear from you, he said. I need a favor, I told him. Name it. Your wife's charity, the Spring Gala. Still happening this Friday? Yes. Beaumont Foundation. Press, donors, the whole lineup. Why? I want an invitation. He hesitated. You planning to make a scene? No scenes, I said. Just closure. He sighed. I'll leave your name off the official list. But you'll have a seat, back table. That's all I need. He didn't ask what I was planning. Maybe he already knew. The next few days blurred into quiet motion. I spent mornings on the phone with James, tightening every document, timestamp, and witness. Afternoons I drove, to the bank, to a small IT shop, to the registrar's office. Everywhere I went, I left pieces of a puzzle no one but me could see. The IT guy, a college kid with coffee-stained fingers, helped me trace Lily's shell company, LT Consulting Group. Looked professional on paper, but the address belonged to a storage unit near the airport. She set it up 6 months ago, he said. Funds moved through a crypto wallet, then offshore. Can you pull me the registration? He grinned. Already done. Registered under her maiden name. You want a copy? I slipped him 100. You didn't see me. Didn't even blink, he said. Wednesday evening, I stopped by Margaret's grave. Rain had softened the earth, and the scent of wet grass hung heavy. I placed the locket on the headstone and spoke quietly. She's not the girl you remember, Maggie, I said. But I'll fix that. Not by shouting. Not by hurting. I'll let her truth speak for itself. You taught me that silence can be louder than anger. A gust of wind lifted the leaves, carrying the smell of jasmine from the nearby fence. For the first time since the wedding, I felt steady. Thursday. David called. The seating chart's set. Lily and Thomas will be at the front table. I made sure of it. And you? I'll be nearby. But I won't interfere unless necessary. Good. Keep it that way. He hesitated. You sure about this, Richard? Public humiliation cuts both ways. I'm not humiliating her, I said. I'm showing her reflection. Friday came sharp and clear, spring air, cool evening. I put on my old navy suit, polished the shoes myself. The mirror showed lines I hadn't noticed before. Not just age. Resolve. At the gala entrance, no one recognized me. Perfect. I walked past photographers and into a ballroom dripping with light, chandeliers, white tablecloths, champagne towers. The kind of place where truth usually came dressed in lies. I spotted Lily instantly. She wore silver satin, hair pinned high, that practiced smile. Thomas stood beside her, hand at her waist, proud, clueless. David caught my eye across the room. A nod. The signal. Dinner passed in speeches and polite laughter. The charity auction followed. Then came the special presentation, a tradition, David had said, where donors showcased community projects. Lily took the stage first. She spoke smoothly, confidently about new beginnings, family legacy, clean business ethics. Her voice filled the hall like perfume, sweet but suffocating. Then David stepped up. "Thank you, Lily," he said into the microphone, smiling thinly. "Before we continue, I'd like to invite a man whose work helped build this city." He gestured toward me. The spotlight swung. For a split second, I saw her face freeze. Then she smiled, the kind of brittle smile that cracks under pressure. "Richard Thompson," David announced. "Founder of Thompson Construction, and a personal friend of our family." Polite applause. Whispers. I walked up calmly, folder in hand. "Evening," I said into the mic. My voice sounded steadier than I felt. "I wasn't planning to speak tonight, but since I'm here, I thought I'd share something about legacies." Lily's smile faltered again. I opened the folder. 10 years ago, my company partnered with Beaumont Industries to build community housing. It was honest work, clean and fair. But recently I discovered that some of those old documents have been altered. A murmur rippled through the crowd. I looked directly at Lily. Altered by someone who thought family reputation could be bought, and that truth could be rewritten. Her hand shot up. "Dad." I raised mine. "You've had your turn on the microphone, Lily." Gasps. Cameras. Silence thick enough to choke. I held up the notarized page. "This document includes an integrity clause, signed by me and witnessed by my daughter. It binds the Beaumont Trust to honest representation. Any fraudulent claim made by a signatory voids that trust. Permanently." David took the paper, unfolded it, and read the signature aloud. "Lily and Thompson." Her face strained of color. Whispers turned into ripples. Someone snapped a photo. "No," I said. "I don't want to bore anyone with legalities. But this signature here, and the evidence of a shell company created 6 months ago under that same name, means every dollar tied to that false transfer attempt dissolves tonight. Not in court. Automatically." Thomas turned toward her, confused. "What's he talking about?" Lily stammered. It's a mistake, Dad, stop." But the projector behind the stage flickered to life. David's doing. An image appeared, a screenshot of her email request to his accountant, time-stamped, sign, L. Thompson. The audience gasped. I stepped back from the mic. No anger, no shouting. Just the truth. And the truth, my friends, always finds daylight. I turned toward David. He nodded slightly. Then I left the stage. The noise behind me blurred, voices, confusion, reporters whispering. I didn't stay to watch. The point wasn't destruction. It was balance. Outside, night air hit my face like cool water. For the first time in years, my hands weren't shaking. David joined me a few minutes later. "She'll hate you for this," he said. "She already did. She might recover." "I hope she does," I said. "But she'll never forget the cost of the lie." He handed me something, the silver locket. "You dropped this earlier. Thought you'd want it back." I took it. "Thanks." "She looked just like her mother up there," he said quietly. "Yeah," I said. "That's what hurt the most. We stood there in silence, listening to the faint echo of chaos from inside. Now what? He asked. No, I said, slipping the locket into my pocket. We wait for the dust to settle. The morning after the gala, the town woke to headlines that tasted like scandal. Heiress accused of fraudulent transfers, sources confirm evidence presented at charity event. Her name wasn't printed, but everyone in Austin knew who the heiress was. I didn't buy the paper. Didn't need to. Justice doesn't need applause, it just needs witnesses. I sat on the porch, coffee in hand, watching the clouds drift over the fields. The air still smelled faintly of rain and jasmine, a strange kind of calm after a storm. Around noon, I heard the gravel crunch. A car door slammed. Silver sedan. Designer heels clicking up the path. Lily. She didn't knock. She never did as a kid. She just burst in yelling, "Daddy, guess what?" But the woman who walked through my door wasn't that girl anymore. Her hair was down, makeup smeared, eyes red from crying or lack of sleep. Probably both. "Happy now?" she said. No greeting, no pause. Just those two words, brittle as glass. I set the mug down. "No." She laughed once, sharp and bitter. "Of course not. You never were. You mistake peace for happiness," I said quietly. She paced the kitchen like a trapped animal. "You humiliated me in front of everyone. Thomas's family, the press, the investors. I didn't humiliate you," I said. "You did that yourself. Don't twist it," she snapped. "You planned this. You waited for the perfect moment to ruin me." "No," I said. "I waited for the perfect moment to stop you." She stopped pacing, stared at me. "You think you're some kind of hero? You're pathetic. You couldn't stand that I finally had a better life." "Better?" I repeated softly. "You built that life on lies, Lily. I didn't take it from you. The truth did." She slammed her hands on the table. "You don't understand how this world works." "You're right," I said. "I build things. I don't fake them." Her eyes filled with tears, but anger kept them from falling. "You embarrass me in front of Thomas. He won't even answer my calls. Maybe he's asking himself the same question I did, who you really are." She looked away, voice dropping. "You've destroyed me." I shook my head. "I've freed you." "From what?" "From pretending." For a moment, the only sound was the clock ticking. Always that clock. She sank into the chair opposite mine, face buried in her hands. "I never wanted it to go this far," she whispered. "I just wanted to belong somewhere. After Mom died, I felt invisible. You buried yourself in work, and you found people who looked at you the way you wanted me to," I said. "I know." She looked up, eyes glistening. "Then why did you do it?" "Because lies don't heal loneliness, Lily. They just build walls around it." She exhaled shakily. "You could have talked to me." "I tried," I said. 5 years ago. You stopped answering." Silence. Heavy, honest. Her gaze drifted to the mantel, the family photo I'd turned face down weeks ago. She stood, walked over, and flipped it upright. "You still kept this?" she asked. "Every day." She stared at it for a long time, her thumb brushing over her mother's face. "I look like her now," she murmured. "You do," I said. "But she never used beauty as currency." That hit her. Hard. Her shoulders stiffened, her jaw tightened. "You're cruel," she whispered. "No," I said. "I'm tired." She turned to leave, then stopped at the doorway. "Do you ever regret it? What you did?" I looked out the window, the wind moving through the trees, the sunlight catching the dust in the air. "Every damn second," I said. "But not because it was wrong. Because it had to be." She nodded slowly, like she understood but hated herself for it. "You've destroyed my reputation," she said finally. "I'll never recover." "You'll recover," I said. "But not as who you were." She hesitated. And you? What do you get out of this? Silence, I said. The kind that lets you breathe again. She stood there, uncertain, then walked to the door. Her hand lingered on the frame. I never meant to hurt you, she said softly. I know, I replied. But you did anyway. She nodded, eyes down. Goodbye, Dad. For now, I said. When the door closed, the house felt heavier, not emptier, just quieter. I sat for a long time, staring at the photo she'd turned upright. Margaret's smile. Lily's young face frozen in joy. A life before bitterness. I reached for the silver locket in my pocket, opened it, and placed it on the mantel beside the photo. Justice is done, I said to no one. But peace, that's another story. The clock ticked. Outside, the wind carried the smell of rain again. I walked to the porch. The sky was pale, washed clean, the kind of quiet blue that comes after everything breaks. Down the road, a car disappeared around the bend, her car. For a heartbeat, I wanted to call out. To tell her to come back, to start over. But the words stayed behind my teeth. Some bridges aren't burned. They just fade until you can't see them anymore. David Beaumont called that evening. She came by, he said. Told Thomas everything. He's shaken, but oddly calm. She's gone to stay with a friend in Dallas. Good, I said. Distance helps clarity. You did what you had to. Maybe. But that doesn't make it easier. He paused. You remind me of my father. He used to say justice is colder than love. I smiled faintly. Because it lasts longer. David was quiet for a while. You'll hear from the press, you know. I won't answer. Of course not. We hung up without goodbyes. That night, I sat outside under the stars. The field beyond the fence shimmered with fireflies. I could almost hear Margaret's laughter, the echo of a time when everything made sense. I whispered into the dark. She's free now, Maggie. Not the way we hoped, but free. A breeze moved through the grass, soft, almost approving. I closed my eyes, let the silence settle around me. It wasn't peace, not yet. But it was something close. 2 weeks passed before the phone stopped ringing. Reporters, lawyers, old acquaintances, all looking for a statement, a quote, a confession. I gave them nothing. Silence was my last defense, and I'd learned to wear it well. The headlines faded as quickly as they'd risen. Another scandal took their place, a senator, a charity fund, something shinier for people to point at. But in quiet corners of the city, the whispers stayed. They always do. Beaumont's daughter, they'd murmur. The one who fell from grace. I didn't repeat those words, not even in my head. I'd already buried enough ghosts. Spring slipped toward summer. The days grew longer, the air heavier. I spent my mornings walking the property line, fixing fences, oiling old hinges, small things that made the world make sense again. In the afternoons, I painted the porch rails, one coat at a time. There's something honest about paint, it hides cracks but doesn't pretend they're gone. Sometimes I'd catch myself turning toward the road, half expecting a car to appear. It never did. I told myself that was for the best. One afternoon, I found a letter in the mailbox. No return address, just my name in handwriting I knew as well as my own. Inside, a single sheet of paper. Dad, I'm in Dallas. Staying with a friend. I've started working, nothing glamorous, but honest. I'm sorry. You were right. Truth costs more than I thought. Maybe one day, when you're ready, we can talk again. Love, Lily. I read it twice. Then a third time, slower. The words weren't perfect, but they were hers. No lies, no polish. Just raw, human. I folded it carefully and slid it into the silver locket on the mantel. It fit there, behind the photo of her younger self, the girl who'd once believed the world was kind. That evening I drove out to the lake. The same one where the wedding had been, only now the flowers were gone, the lights taken down, the grass patchy from the stage they'd built. The water was calm, mirror still. I sat on the old dock with a flask of bourbon, not to drink but to remember. The night air carried the scent of wet wood and spring dust. I could almost hear her laughter from years ago, echoing over the water, tiny feet thumping on the planks, Margaret's voice calling. "Careful, sweetheart!" I smiled. The kind of smile that hurts in the corners of your eyes. I pulled out the folded copy of the Integrity Clause, the document that had ended everything. It was wrinkled, coffee-stained, heavy with purpose. I read the signatures once more. Hers. Mine. Then I tore it clean down the middle and tossed it into the lake. The pieces drifted apart, ink bleeding into the water like a memory finally letting go. Some debts don't need collecting. When I got home, the sun was setting. The house glowed in orange light, the way it used to when Margaret baked pies on Sundays. I made dinner for one, simple stew, black coffee after. The radio murmured a slow country tune, nothing special. But halfway through, the singer's voice cracked on a line about forgiveness, and for the first time in months, I felt something loosen inside me. Maybe that was all forgiveness really was, the moment you stop needing an apology. A few days later, David Beaumont stopped by. No suit, no chauffeur, just him in rolled-up sleeves and a tired smile. He handed me an envelope. "Thomas asked me to give you this," he said. Inside was a photo, Thomas and Lily, sitting on a park bench. Not touching, but close. "Trying again?" I asked. "Talking again," he said. "Which is something." I nodded. "They deserve that chance." "So do you," he said gently. He looked around the porch. "You've been fixing the place up. Old things deserve care," I said. He smiled faintly. "Don't we all?" We shared a quiet drink before he left. Two fathers who'd both learned that raising children meant learning how to let them fall. That night, the wind picked up. I stepped outside just as the first drops began to fall. The rain smelled clean, not like the storm from before, softer, forgiving. I sat on the porch steps and let it hit my face. Margaret used to say every storm rinses something away, grief, guilt, dust, whatever's ready to go. Maybe she was right. I don't know what tomorrow looks like. Maybe Lily will call. Maybe she won't. Maybe I'll drive down to Dallas one day and find that same lake, the same girl, just older, ready to talk. But tonight, the house is quiet. The clock ticks slow. The air hums with crickets and rain. I glance at the mantel, the photo, the locket, the folded letter. For the first time in years, they don't feel like reminders of loss. They feel like proof that love doesn't vanish. It just changes shape. I pour one last glass of bourbon and raise it to the empty room. "To truth," I whisper. "And to the silence that keeps it alive." The window fogs with the breath of a world moving on. I watch until the glass clears, until the reflection staring back at me looks almost like peace. Then I blow out the light. If this story moved you, please support the channel by liking the video, subscribing, and leaving a comment with your thoughts. To continue the journey, click the box on the left for the next story. Thank you for being here.